The enemy. The greatest hater of Railings. The kobolds must have truly hated Railings to have wanted to summon a primal just to destroy them. Yet here we are, the Railing hater, and one who will be the downfall of any Railing enjoyer. That's right, we're back with another top 10 thingies of Final Fantasy XIV. But amidst that, I will be bringing you on a tour of the best Railings in the game to honor those who have yet to be destroyed by Ravana. Let's get started on that. The first location on our list is deep within Kugane Castle. Amongst these rather beautiful stairs, we get these very simple yet intricately ornate handrails. On various parts of these handrails, we can see these inlaid metals stamped onto them in a complex pattern that is very appealing to the eye. Something about the simplicity mixed with these complex patterns makes it very enjoyable compared to some of the other handrails that we'll be seeing throughout, and really has them stand out. But despite that, this inlaid pattern is used through various locations throughout Ulthard. We can see it's used in the base of the stairs down here, as well as some other recolored variations of these railings in Kugane itself, even shown on a square railing. So it really shows how flexible the team can be with the resources they're using. Maybe that'll be worth a video later on reused assets. But besides just looking at these railings, we will also be seeing how safe and usable they are for my Mikote. And this first one's not off to the best start. While it is rather safe and difficult for my Mikote to fall out of here due to the various balusters going across and the double handrail, it's still a little wide, and if my Mikote was feeling like it, she could jump right out if she happened to spot something that caught her eye. But overall, not the worst safety standards we've ever seen. Chaos. The chaos of Strayborough Deadwalk. And the railings are no exception to this. These ones I found particularly interesting as I could not find them in any other location throughout the game. And they have the appearance of the sort of rock candy sticks that when you break them open have various patterns and all kinds of things inside of them. And with that, they also have this very pleasant metallic texture to them that you don't often see get used to such a high degree as the one we see here. The area this is in is very isolated, just being this small little round plaza where you would normally take the balloons up and not even really take the time to notice these rails were so unique as they were. As for whether or not my Mikote can use these, I would say they're fairly safe, and more importantly, they're a good height that is usable for my Mikote. The various balusters that you see throughout are fairly well spaced and would have to go very much out of my way to jump through one of these. Overall, I'd say they're pretty great. Heading into the Aetherochemical research facility, we find these various glowing railings in the opening section, and these are probably up there in terms of the safest railings we will find on our journey. Though, looking at their height brings a lot of questions as to whether or not these were made by the ancient Alligans who constructed them, or later by the Legion who occupied this location. Regardless, the construct of these railings is just so well done, and I guess that would make sense for such an advanced civilization to have well-made railings of all things. Along these railings at various posts, we have these sort of segmented part between the glowing sections, and it almost looks like it could open partway. Maybe this was a place where Allagan machines would travel through, or more likely it was just for pizzazz. The corner posts we see on these are quite bizarre too, as they have like these various spikes on them and just a very odd shape overall. As for safety concerns, I'd say for my Mikote, these are fairly safe, but any small Lalafels might find this railing rather useless. Strangely though, as we go farther into the facility, the latter half of the entire dungeon just doesn't have railings. So I guess the aliens did not care too much about safety. Either that or it really was added at a later date by someone else. Now we're heading to the skies to look at Neverreap. Not too far from the beginning of this area, we find a few locations with these gnarled, interweaved branches and roots going up and down the edge of these islands, forming a nice little natural organic railing for us. This sort of natural formed railing was most likely manipulated to be this way, but still makes for a pleasant change of pace from the constructed ones we see elsewhere, and really makes it stand out because of this reason. With this, we also see them using similar railings within Euphrosyne, the Endwalker Alliance raid. It makes you wonder if they use similar techniques that you see with some species of tree that are in captivity, where they manipulate the shape and directions of the branches, such as in bonsai and other various tree shaping arts. They just can't manage to keep me out of this place. We are back in St. Mocianne's Arboretum, but this time we are not going very deeply inside, and instead looking right on the inner entrance. Right at the entrance, we are greeted with these lovely iron fences that have quite the ornate pattern to it, almost ringing true to a old Victorian style of fencing you might see on various rooftops. They just have such a charming and rustic feel to them that I very much enjoy. So these ones are kind of funny because directly next to them is probably the most mundane and simple railing you could possibly have. Just two handrails perpendicular to each other. And the condition of these is quite a lot worse than the other ones, even though the other ones are fairly tarnished and rusted. There's also a bit of a funny part to these rails. Whether by accident or on purpose, there are 3 separate layers of the railing that you can see from above. I assume this was an error, as it would be quite taxing on systems to do it this way, or at least it could be less taxing with only 1 layer to it. Unless maybe they were going for some sort of strange aesthetic design. I'm going to assume overall though this was probably a duplication error. Within the confines of Mount Gulg, we find these rather pleasant Greek aesthetic railings and architecture scattered throughout the summit of Mount Gulg. Overall, the design of these is fairly straightforward and something rather predictable. But what really makes them stand out is the area where the rest of Mount Gulg is being constructed. And you can see the handrails going through various phases of construction. This really elevates these railings from being a simple sort of Greek pantheon inspiration to something rather standout. Based on the size of these, it's very clear these were made for Valkyrie and nobody else. So their usability for my Mikote is rather low. If you observe the ones under construction a little more closely, they have this really cool speckled gradient design to them, as if to help emphasize the construction of them. Overall, it's just a really well done effect to see something being constructed over time with all these powers that the Light Warden has at their disposal. Now we are taking a dive into the endless corridors of the Antitower. Within one of the pocket dimensions, we are greeted with these railings of very thin and intricate design, but they may be a little deceiving. That's right, we are on the bottom side of the railings right now. The entire area we traverse through from here onward from the dungeon is completely upside down. And if we are to flip our view upside down, we get to see what the top of the railings look like instead of this bottom location. That is more meant to be decorative hangovers than the actual parts of function. And that can be seen in its rather low heights compared to the other side. This whole section of the dungeon just makes for a lot of fun little areas to explore and view. And when you first go for this area, you might not even realize that you're upside down yet until you're on the ceilings of the inner castle walls. In terms of safety, I'd say these ones nail it. It's hard for even a Lalafell to squeeze through these bars, and the height is not too oppressive that Mikote could not see over them. As well as having a lot of segmented parts, it allows for someone to view through it rather easily and enjoy the empty void pocket dimension place we're in. I'm not... maybe don't stay here too long. Deep within Malikah as well, we get these railings constructed from brick, wood, and steel. You can see the posts are made of brick and have these metal holsters to hold the various handrails in place. And they likely just sort of slip right into them as they're constructing them, making for a rather very stable design, albeit one of very simple looks in terms of structure. An overall yet fairly simple design, fast in a way where it is unlikely to fall apart or be very difficult to even damage. The only real concern is that the wood may decay over time, as it looks like it might be very untreated wood, but my Mikote will not have to see such a grim future, where wood railings are snapping apart. Throughout Sohr Khai, we will find various railings blocking off not only ledges, but also garden sections. The design of these is rather interesting and really stands out from all the other locations that we see in proximity to the churning mist. But deeper inside is where this really stands out, as it's used in a boss mechanic. That's right, a railing used as a boss mechanic. So one has to imagine this Pegasus is friends with Ravana. Off to the sides of the arenas, you can see all the various railings lined up. But they won't be there for too long. As the fight progresses, the evil flying horse will break many of these railing sections away, revealing some rather electrically charged waters. And if you stand in front of these railings, they will do their very job and save you from plunging into the electrified waters. There's even farther mechanics where they will spawn storm clouds above you that will very much quickly destroy all of your railings, leaving you quite vulnerable. But given that we are the Warrior of Lights, this seems to be more of a cozy electrified spring water than it is something much more deadly. And now for my favorite one that I have found, and the one that inspired this video. All the way over in Gridania, in various locations, we find these bridges with railings that are not only very functional, but very stylish too. Not only the handrails have these arcing shapes to them that make them, I imagine, really fun to drag your hand across as you cross the bridge, but they are fairly well constructed as well, having very few gaps between the balusters. So it'd be even hard for a Lalafell to slip through these ones as well. Even the posts that run along are fairly large and have these rather intricate light structures fixated into them. I wonder what they use to power these lights. Maybe crushed up fairy? It's probably just some sort of aether crystal. Overall though, these are very safe, functional, they look pretty, and they can work for my Mikote, which is probably the most important part. She clearly can't be trusted. And with all this, they also look rather pleasant at nighttime as well. Overall, just one of my favorite design handrails, as it stands out in every category of my made-up a rating system. When I was looking for handrails, I probably encountered over 50 unique sort of handrails. A lot of them ended up being rather simple, but some of them ended up being a lot more unique, and these were just a few of the ones that I ended up enjoying. It's funny to think what you might miss if you aren't thinking about even the smaller things, such as railings of all things in a video game. And I'm sure I probably missed your favorite railing as well. Well, that will do it for another top 10 thingies of Final Fantasy XIV. I hope you enjoyed it. Up here, another video. Down here, another video. Over here, subscribe. Thank you to my members, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Bye.